Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the TB&J podcast. With me today...
Was that not the right time? Sorry, you can start over. Sorry, it was way too loud.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the TB&J podcast. With me today is D.
Hey, I'm here and not messing with controls.
And we're doing House of the Dragon, episode 2, and we're not doing it at 1.3 speed because I'm going to remember to turn that off when I'm done editing.
Good luck with that.
Theme song!
TB&J! TB&J!
Thank you. Thank you.
I wanted to laugh at the end. Did you cut that off?
No, I didn't.
How dare you?
I didn't cut anything off.
Was it not the right one?
No, it was. Just the theme song was also...
Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah. All right, so House of the Dragon, episode 2. D, thumbs up, thumbs down.
It's a thumbs up for me.
It's a thumbs up for me. I'm so glad it's a thumbs up for you now. You are fully sold. What sold you?
I'm not fully sold.
No.
I'm not fully sold. I just think this is a good episode.
Okay.
It surprisingly so, because I was like, a better part of halfway through this episode, and I'm like, this is fucking slow as shit. And I was like, kind of out of it. And then
Game of Thrones was really slow to start too.
Yeah, so I'm not worried about it. I'm not like anti it. But a couple things happened. And it starts with actually Otto, which I was really happy with. I kind of, when we get to this scene, I want to talk about kind of Otto's decision to go himself, and just the complexity of kind of what's being sold here, if I understand it right. So like there were, and then a lot of characters just really sold themselves as good. Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra Twain.
Rhaenyra is had a very solid episode. I really enjoyed it. A lot of different side. I like seeing the different sides of a character by demonstrating with different characters. I think that's the key to really one of the reasons we love Tyrion so much is because we see him interact with so many different characters.
Yes,
and we see we're able to kind of evoke all these different sides of the characters, and I like that. I started to see that a little bit with the characters that we have here, and I was surprisingly taken with the king,
Viserys.
Just what is. It's a very hard character to write.
Yeah.
This kind of benign yet ineffectual king. And
yeah, he doesn't seem to be too concerned with actually ruling.
Well, no, I think that's the complexity, is that he's not concerned with it. He's just not effectual, and he makes kind of poor decisions and doesn't see what's in front of him, and kind of thinks he's making a right choice, and he's seemingly making he's usually making a choice more or less against something all the time for probably the right reason, but also not necessarily the right thing. So that's what I think this whole episode is really about, is that duty versus thing, and how complex it is, and how muddled it is, and how you can kind of be a generally good guy who doesn't mean anyone ill harm. And that's what I think is the most intriguing about this character that kind of struck me today. Even though he does have these incredibly poor characteristics, which I think he demonstrates at the end, is just that and I think that was the pull. That was the interesting thing to me, was that they made this kind of ho-hum kind of character intriguing to me, because they put him in this position of he's trying, he's doing what's right enough, but it feels wrong to do this, and it feels like these people deserve it. It just feels like everybody's conniving, and it feels like you should go against that grain. And I get what he's feeling, but it's also objectively wrong.
Yes.
And it's not like people aren't happy with his decision, but like it's almost like even Otto at the end of this decision is like, oh man, it actually worked. Like,
Yeah.
or like it. So I find the whole complexity. I find the whole storyline layered. And I'm enjoying that. That's what I'm really.
What
enjoying.
you were talking about, he has the whole episode for him is how people are pressuring him to choose a new queen so that he can continue on his bloodline, because secretly nobody wants Rhaenyra on the throne because
Right.
she's a woman, and they want him to sire more heirs and more men heirs. So they want him to pick a new queen. And originally, Lord Corlys and his wife were going to have him marry their daughter because they are Valyrian blood. They are super ancient house from old Valyria,
And their names Valeron or something like that, or like it's like a slight different pronunciation. It's like it's not
Valerion. Or something like
Valerian.
that.
Yeah. Okay, they're Valerian. Oh, okay. They're
From Valyria.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. they're
So, like, if
Valerian.
their houses were to join in marriage, it would be a unification of the two ancient houses.
Yeah, and it's funny they mention all the time that they have like literally they describe their niece or daughter or whatever like on paper,
Yeah.
and they're like what's not to like, and his answer is that she's 12, but the
And then the Lord fires back. She'll mature.
but one of those things, and one of those things was that, and she shares Targaryen blood.
Yeah.
Literally, it's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah, that she has Targaryen
she's
blood in her.
partially related, but actually, even in like a modern context, for our, it's like such a meta weirdness where it's just like, actually, that should be a red
flag.
That's a reason. No, I'm saying like what they're doing, like the distance of relationship between these two is far enough away, right? Like it's like you look at those two, you're looking, they're not like, yeah, they're not.
They're not.
You're not getting this. So like it's really effective in being like, oh, it's just a tinge, but it has the story of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has the story of the thing, so it kind of has all the same, like, and that's what they care about, like that Targaryen line, right? And
It's like when Rudy Giuliani married his cousin.
right, exactly like that, and Jerry Lewis.
Yes, Jerry Lewis.
So it's just a neat little. I just like this complexity to it.
It is a very, very tough situation because, like, this guy is still grieving his wife, who he desperately loved. He really did love her so much. Emma.
It seems so. It
Yeah.
seems so, but like also, and this is what I enjoy about this so far. I think again, I just don't have a full mindset yet. It's just too early to tell, but like so far, I'm intrigued by the idea of like the layers that they're kind of allowing you to place upon some of these characters. Like I said, Viserys is a well-intentioned fella. He has no ill will, it seems, towards anyone. He wants to keep the peace very adamantly. He has all the positive intentions of someone. Something. He's not overly prideful.
No.
He's very willing to seemingly take offenses, like on the chin, and not react to it. That also delves into like an element of fear or like, you know, like unwillingness to confront it. Right? He'd rather kind of let it be. He's not wrong in half those chances, but like there's a difference between kind of like letting things just go by the wayside and letting things go by the wayside with a sternness of understanding, like as to like the offense or like a showing of strength is what I think Rhaenyra.
This is so hard for you.
It is very hard. Rhaenyra.
I'll make you a cheat sheet with like faces and names and just like tape it to the wall.
Just phonetic spellings is fine.
Yeah, honestly.
So I find him layered. Like I find him like he's cares about his wife, but he also was totally willing to like sacrifice her for the line, and like
Yes.
And this is also,
I'm wondering if he
on
like
one hand interesting. On one hand, you could argue, you could put this in the line of Jon Snow of like he's choosing duty over love, like he's making what the hard decision that should be made by a king, right? Right? Like, isn't that the case?
Absolutely.
Yet there's the 21st century perspective, like complexity of like, no, fuck that. Like,
Right.
You don't cut it. Like, so it's like such an interesting.
And he does
complexity.
kind of do that. He does kind of say fuck that, because Duty would say that he should marry this 12-year-old, and he doesn't. He ends up proclaiming
married a 15-year-old
Hightower to be his wife.
This is the
which
part
is a little more socially
this
acceptable.
Is the part, right, and this is the part that was just it might be a layer too much for me to be like, you want me to nuance out his thoughts on a difference between a 12 and 15-year-old? Like, besides the literal physical bump that they're going to get, she's going to have in a year's time. Like, in a year's time, she'll look more or less like Alicent. I actually do like that twist on the name. I always love.
Nice name.
I love ours little twists on traditional names.
Yeah,
they sound so very natural to say, and I always found that intriguing. Like, more so than most other fantasy genres. I'm always I would like, because some of them are like Ned, like Eddard.
Yeah,
and Ned. It's like,
I was literally just thinking Eddard.
Like, that's such an interesting, it's that level of world building is so intriguing. It's so neat to do that.
And Catelyn.
And they're so close.
Yep.
To like a real
and Littlefinger. No, that's not.
you know.
I am very, very relieved, because when I first heard of House of the Dragon, my worry was that these characters would be a little flat and two-dimensional, and I'm very relieved and grateful they are not that way, at least so far. Everybody seems to have ulterior motives. Everybody seems to have different things going on inside their heads that we're not exactly privy to yet in the story, and it's a lot more complicated than it is straightforward. And I'm very, very happy to have that, because I was so excited to return to Westeros, but I was so nervous to do so because of fucking season 8, and now that it seems like competent's in charge.
The ratings on this, like the viewership?
Yeah, this episode was higher than the first episode. It was like 10.8 million in America.
You got all the curiosity,
and that's just on Sunday night, man.
You got all the curiosity of this next episode. If it jumps up again, that might be completely unprecedented. Like to have no drop, not only to not have drop off,
but to increase
it,
especially in the era of streaming. Because I'm one of the guys that I watch it Monday.
This is the interesting thing. Everybody got dropped so hard on their head, they're just so willing to accept it back,
like a battered wife.
We are. This is the thing, is they probably could have done whatever they wanted to do to us, right? It's like that perfect first love that it's like a year later they come back and they're like, hey, you want to come back? And you're like,
remember how good it felt when you were up inside us?
Yeah, fucking let's do this fucking shit. This is fucking true love. Let's make love forever. And it's like, no, dude, you don't see how bad this is? She's still fucking, she's gonna break up with him. She's gonna break up with LeVar. Look, just take some time, dude. You can't just do that. It's just every excuse.
We need that protective friend to step in and say, no, you gotta stop.
For it to be actually good.
Yeah.
Is intriguing.
The ex actually, hit the gym, deleted Facebook, and actually got better.
So, do we want to run through it?
We can hit the big points. Running through the whole thing would definitely be time consuming.
Okay, then let's hit on the big points and just say what are the standout moments for you that you could think of, or that there's as you roll through these, what are the ones that you really pick up on?
The ones that I remember, I'm probably working backwards here. The marriage thing was super
the walk or the marriage proposal.
The proposal to Alicent.
Did you not see that coming at all?
I figured it was happening, and I kind of assumed he would try to propose to Alicent instead of.
But why? Because you didn't. So you were I felt like this is weird. Because
I saw through Otto in the first episode. He was go comfort the king while he's mourning and get into his good graces.
But did you feel that this is a conversation that Viserys and Otto had?
No.
Okay, so then. Do you feel like the scenes we had between Viserys and Alicent were storytelling enough to tell you of course he's going to propose, but this is the part that kills me. Yes, I get the idea that he has to solidify the line or promote a future, but he's trying to split the difference of I don't want to marry this young girl, I'm going to marry a girl a few years older, whatever that means in this world.
Sure.
But like, does this accomplish the same goals? Clearly doesn't, right? Like, this is a horrible idea on a flimsy difference and like all this shit. So it's like, it's not like it, and it didn't sell me that they had a, like, I get that he's kind of taken with it, but I don't feel like, especially based on, I don't know, like, it just seems like very silly.
Their conversations came to me as very earnest, and it was very refreshing because from being in the Game of Thrones world for so long, when Hightower told his daughter to go comfort the king in his time of mourning, I was like, oh, is he pimping out his daughter? Is that what's going to happen here? But then she gets to his room, and he's just building this little fortress of old Valyria, and he's got his model dragons, and it's very, very earnest, and it's him when he's vulnerable.
Yeah.
And they have a genuine, like, heart-to-heart where he's telling her about the family history,
right.
and they're just talking.
Oh, and that's an interesting layer when he's talking to the 12-year-old. That it felt, and this is where, again, I felt like they drew this connection to add to the layering of this. Like, if they're doing it purposefully, I respect it. If it's kind of like you're not recognizing what you're doing, it's weird. But I think they know what they're doing when they kind of mimic the conversation where she's like intrigued by the stories of the dragons, and he tells them to her, and like then this 12-year-old is asking the same questions that Alicent has already asked. He's like, I've already done this shit. Like, I'm just gonna fuck her. Like, like that's what it feels like, and it's like that is almost, and it's just that. What the hell are you supposed to do as a Targaryen raised it the way they are and all that? As any king in like this, like I'm supposed to do this. It's normal to marry these types of people. Like it's like no one will give a shit if I fuck a 12-year-old. Like what are you supposed to do? You're literally making an incredibly generous and thoughtful and benign decision by fucking the 15-year-old. and don't get me wrong, like I know that sounds silly, but like what I'm saying is that like that's how a lot of things are. Like a leader having to make a decision that in hindsight 100 200 years later is going to seem like what a fuck. Like you could have done this, you could have done that, you could have gone here. But, like, sometimes you can just make the decisions that you have in front of you with the best knowledge you have, with whatever your feelings and emotions and willpower have to give you. Like, and like, it's crazy. Like, I don't know. I just find that, and I'm like, they're layering this into it. Because I don't see them otherwise drawing the connection. I don't think we're supposed to like this decision. I think we're supposed to feel conflicted about this decision, which I think is good.
They do a great job making us feel conflicted because everything we've seen so far between the king and Alicent has been very earnest, and it seemed like they might have been falling for each other or at least respecting one another as peers instead of just like, you're the king and I'm the lowly daughter of the hand of the king. Like they started really, really liking each other, and then he comes out of this.
She flatters him.
Yes. And
she flatters him.
She flatters him, and he kind of humors her. It's kind of, they're playing up each other a little bit.
She humors him.
Or she
flatters him, and he humors her. That's what his flattery is. Like, just this, she just sees him as a king. And, like, most people see him as kind of...
Do you think the marriage proposal came to her out of the blue? Do you think that was the first she heard of it?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah?
100%. It's just so okay. So that scene is the one that really sticks out to you. Like that was like shocking to you.
That was like the pivotal one of this episode, and then the one that kind of flew a little lower, but also very pivotal, was Lord Corlys summoning Daemon to King's Landing, and they were having that little meeting in secret about how he wants Daemon to go deal with the crab
in the
feeder.
epilogue. Yeah. So this, the setup here is really cool because the crab feeder is, I think, a very intriguing external enemy.
Yes.
Right? That is like inhuman almost. Like they're doing this thing of like, I don't know who he is. I'm very intrigued by
Do
who
you
he is.
think he's
They're from the
supposed
Free
to be
Cities.
somebody, considering they've only referred to him by a nickname and we don't really get a good look at him?
I don't think so. I maybe, but I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. There's no one alive that we know of really. Like they could be a descendant of somebody.
Right.
Else,
It's 150 or 170, whatever
You know.
years before.
So I like the idea. I mean, I would probably be upset if it was like
A Greyjoy.
the Red Woman or something in like disguise, some kind of like glamour. I'd be like, fuck you. Like, but like, because she's supposed to be alive. That's one thing where it's like she's supposed to be alive right now, and she may actually be as young as her visage.
Isn't the Raven guy from season 3 or 4?
This is the other thing
too?
that as I got thinking more of it, I'm like, the Blood Raven is most
The One-Eyed
definite-
Raven.
The One-Eyed like
Or Three-Eyed Raven?
I don't know.
I forget what it is. Yeah, that whole
100%.
storyline was boring. But yeah, he should be alive, right?
I'm the Raven. No. There's always like to every there's always a like. That's the thing is like someone is, and it's like definitely all around this era. So I'm like, oh, I'm intrigued to see where this expands to.
Mm-hmm.
So the scene that really got me in this was, like I said, Otto suiting up.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's deflecting. I don't know what Otto was thinking here. And this is, again, the layers of complexity. Because I literally and the only thing I can think of is that he's coming into conflict with his. And this is what I like about a lot of the characters. And maybe this goes against even what I said last week. Is that I think the characters that we're seeing are honestly doing what they think is right for the realm. And it so happens in some cases that what people think is right, and in many cases perhaps that what people think is right for the realm is themselves.
Sure.
Which is not crazy to me, but it's to say that it's not in an observant like greed or like egotism. It's not like in a like, okay, I'm gonna climb the ladder, play us, or I'm gonna, or like our dynasty is all that matters, and it doesn't matter who gets in the way. I think they do care. Like I think he's willing. Like I think in this showing, he's showing that like I can't send my king here.
Because the king
I think
could die.
It's what he wants. I think it's what he wants, and not. I think he equal parts doesn't want Viserys and Daemon to mend fences, and at the same time he doesn't want Daemon to kill Viserys.
Right.
And he doesn't think that Viserys can kill it. Like, so you know what I mean? Like there's this whole thing of like he needs to prevent that, and he can hopefully maybe like, okay, if his like seemingly to me it's like knowing the animosity of this, he either Otto's going out there with the intention of hopefully on some offshoot, maybe knowing this is a suicide chance, but like on the offshoot chance that he can back him down and give it to him, or he's a noble sacrifice, and that just lands his daughter in his lap and perfects his lineage.
I was
right?
really
like,
thinking that his whole point of going instead of the king was because we know that Otto's always hated Daemon. Maybe he was like, "This is my chance. I can kill Daemon."
If that's the case, then he brings dragons. Then he brings a show of force. There's no way. If that's the case, then he's dumb and I don't like the show anymore. Like if that can't be the case because it just flies in the face of the seemingly intelligent way of the show so far. And I don't think that's reasonable to think that like he just went there with 20 dudes thinking he's going to overdo it. I think he went there to be like to force his hand. And he either kills him and almost pushes him into the arms of his daughter and there's his dynasty, right? Or he wins and gets the egg back, right? That's all he thought, and he wanted it to be him that does it. Like this is where, and like when Otto's suiting up, I really do feel like he's like knowing what he's doing, and it really raised an interesting complexity to him. In addition to all the shitty stuff that I feel like he does afterwards, I think he handles the situation poorly from that point on.
Do you think he's a good hand?
I think he's
not necessarily like God level Tyrion.
I think he's too. I think he's too self-motivated to be. I think anyone who's a non-Targaryen as Hand of the King is too much in a situation of desperation in comparison to care. Like at least in the Game of Thrones and that we know, all the what do they call them, houses, like the royal houses?
Noble houses.
All the noble houses are like kind of on a more or less equal playing field of ability, of recognition and things like that. I don't think that's the case for like the other families that are outside of the Targaryen realm in this world. At least they have to like. I think people like the Hightowers have to like if they're not hanging, pretty much nothing. Like there's nothing. It's just gonna go. They're the thing. They're the elves of this world. They're the thing. Like they are not that. So if they live on the blessing of that, if they can unite their families, that's how they solidify their dynasty. Mm-hmm. And that's when it's so tied to that. When it but then the offshoot of that is that when it becomes a pure Game of Thrones and there's no strength in any family, you get this you get a constant bashing back.
Yeah. And
this is weird. I don't think
we know there's no high towers in Game of Thrones.
I don't think there's any good hand of the king that's I don't think there could be a really good hand of the king that's not a Targaryen blood or doesn't have some kind of significant upward mobility to make, or for their family, not just them themselves. Because I can't get any higher except king, but like that's just him. It means nothing for the rest of his lineage. So like that's where I think he's coming from. I did like Corlys. Is that his name? Corlys.
Yeah, he's played by Steve Toussaint. He is the black man Targaryen. Targaryen. You got me saying it now.
The promise of he and Daemon going after the crab feeder as like a show of force that complicates the larger story that we've been in, and just seeing some fucking badass battle scenes, or even even him getting into trouble, maybe a couple episodes, right? Maybe they get into stuff, but
Corlys is clearly going behind the king's back when he has said that Daemon is a monster and don't
he's saying,
affiliate with him.
Guys like us, the second sons, like we make our own way in the world, like that's our thing, and I'm just intrigued by it. Like there was an interesting, really cool backstory to this Corlys guy. I don't know if you...
I was paying attention, yeah. So his family, the Valerians, in Old Valyria, it was them and the Targaryens were like the big noble houses, but the Targaryens had dragons, so they got to rule, and he said he had a driftwood throne. I don't know if that's necessarily like a literal thing, or if he was just like the head of the family that was working on the ships and making their money and their fame that way. But it did translate into him being the wealthiest house in Westeros after they moved and left Old Valyria behind. But it seems like
sounds like they still needed ships to get across the narrow sea.
Definitely. But it is very interesting that like that his ancient family might harbor some old grudge against the Targaryens, because if it weren't for their dragons, maybe the Valerians would have been in charge of Valyria.
Well, I think what he's looking at is like the Valerians are like the second sons of Valyria, right?
Yeah, because the Targaryens always came first.
And I do like this idea, the idea of the animosity of the second son. Do you have that? I don't have that. I have a first son, so
I have no son.
You're an idiot.
Oh, you mean? Oh, I'm a second son. That's what you meant. Yeah. Yep, I'm a second son.
Sure. I don't know if you harbor any animosity towards your older brother.
For a lot of reasons, but no. No, I don't wish my brother fucking dead or nothing. Because, like, nowadays the first son doesn't mean jack shit. And maybe it doesn't mean jack shit for me because my family is worth jack shit. Like, when my parents die, I'm not getting an inheritance.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be. It doesn't have to be about inheritance or money. It can just be about worth or self-worth or, like, familial connection. Like, it means, like, any levels of, like, playing field. It's just a matter of... It depends on your situation. All that can get entangled into it, but in a common...
I always knew my brother was my mother's favorite. And my older sister was always my dad's favorite, and they said as much, like out loud, literally, which is fine. I never really harbored anything against it, but like I don't know, it didn't hinder my relationships with either of them, and it didn't really hinder my relationships with my parents. But maybe it's just that we're so far removed from that old way of thinking of the family, where the first son is such a cherishable thing, and to be protected and to live on the name.
Tell me more about how you harbor bad feelings about your brother.
Well, my brother and I have always been animosity.
We'll be right back.
The next episode of NPR After Dark.
All ASMR. All the time.
TB&J After Dark.
Okay, so, yeah. I like the promise of what they're doing, and obviously the other big scene is just this dragon standoff.
Oh yeah,
That felt like the dragon version of Ned, the Kingslayer, in like episode
Jamie.
like 6 or 4 or something of the first season.
Jamie Lannister.
Yeah, like when he has the thing and he stabs the one buddy in his eye and he stabs him in the leg and stuff and he knocks him out and he's like, it would be a clean kill if I had killed him. Like when his wife had taken Tyrion hostage and he comes to confront him.
Oh
like
yeah,
that's like it had like that energy where you're like, oh shit, is this about to go down? And like I'm like, okay, that's what I'm looking for. It was a taste and it's episode 2 and that's good.
2 of 10.
And you
I
layer it
believe.
with some of this character complexity, and I'm like, all right, I'm down. And holy shit, that Damon actor, that Doctor Who is
Matt
fucking,
Smith. Yeah, he sells it hard. He's so good.
I'm absorbing what he's doing, and I'm just gotta give it to the first 2 episodes so far. I'll be the first to say if they knock the season out of the park, hey, we're looking good for some storytelling.
I mean, it's already been renewed for season 2.
Well, they have to. Like come on. Like I said, it was unprecedented. Like,
also, HBO is like floundering at the moment, so if they have one good thing, you better fucking latch onto it and pay them all very well.
so long as they, as long as they don't like blow up this, but like I think they can extend the story enough, and they're working with George R. R. Martin, so like it just feels more like he's involved.
The second George R. R. Martin stopped being involved with Game of Thrones is kind of when it went off the rails and became bad.
There's just so many moments between season 5 and 7 remind that they really do well. Like, hold the door, man.
Hold the door
fucking brought me to my knees.
Dude, I fucking cried my eyes out, man.
I was like, what?
Battle of the Bastards was in there. It's fucking one of the best episodes of television ever.
Like, I don't know. Like, honestly, Hold the Door might be... And it was so... It was right there the whole time, and I was just like... I just remember being like... Fuck you. And I remember it was late at night, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. Like, and that, what the fuck? And the best part about that is that I was pretty much spoiled about Ned's death. Yep. About the Red Wedding, about like all these Joffrey's death. I knew about all these things ahead of time.
Me too.
Like all so even though all of them landed really well with me, this was the only thing that I was like genuine, and everybody was, I guess, because no one had solidified it.
No, yeah, that was some of the first stuff that wasn't in a book yet, I think.
Can you imagine reading a book and then getting to the Red fucking Wedding?
Dude. Especially, like, you're reading this book and all these, like, awesome characters are built up. It's like Robb is going to go to war with the Lannisters. He's going to take the Iron Throne for himself. And then he just gets fucking murdered.
Can you also imagine living through, like, the early 2000s and, like, trying to explain to people how awesome this is? And everyone's just like, 9/11. Like...
Or everyone's just like, oh, another Swords and Dragons book? No,
Listen,
thank you.
I don't know, this is probably the best time to bring this up, but there's this great story. Because you got to know, like, that probably picked up steam. Like, when is that out? Like, 94, 5?
Oh, yeah, Game of Thrones, I was surprised me with how long ago it came out. I think the first book is older than I am.
It's not even that. What? How old were you born?
95 was when I was born, bro.
Mary,
Braves won the World Series. It's easy to remember.
Okay.
But yeah, no. This episode had a lot of things in it that gave me old-timey Game of Thrones feels, and I'm super, super excited to see where they go with all of it. If Daemon ends up taking out the crab feeder, there's no way he doesn't turn on Corlys, right? I mean, he has to, right?
Well, they do show the moment where he's like, "This is the other layer of Daemon that I like." He seems to love his brother.
Yes.
And
he says, I will talk freely about my brother, you will not.
He really just seems to want his brother to respect him and listen to him. He wants him to say, like, Daemon could be tempered. It should be tempered. But tempered, not neutered. Like, he should be like, no, we need to show a showing of force, right? Okay, whatever his first suggestion is probably wrong, But whatever the council decides,
you're
that,
on the
like,
right track.
He has the right idea in most of these things, and he's trying to get that across to his brother. That his brother is like too ingrained in like the nuance of it to be like, well, you got to think of it, and it's just like, you know what, you need to just cut through the red tape and stop making this like complicated red tape decision of marrying fucking Alastan because you fucking talked yourself into it. Alicent. So like you need to that's because that's what he did, right? Like he talked himself into like, oh well, this is the decision that I should make, the one that I want, like I kind of
the girl who talks to me about my family history.
So and it's like this is where Damon's right. He's just like, no, you like they would work well together if they knew how to work together, and that's what makes it kind of neat. So I'm like I am.
You have a point there, because every time Damon has tried to help his brother and Otto primarily keep him at arm's reach by putting him in charge of random little departments.
And if nothing else, because Otto needs to keep him away so that Otto has a better chance of like pushing his dynasty.
I have so much respect for this show so far.
So these
excited.
characters have like genuine motivations, it seems, to like do their thing. They're not necessarily bad people for doing it. They're just at odds, and it's like, and then you justify all the stuff around it. Like you just like then they can justify anything that each one does because they're out for this and they just want to move this, and it's like, well, why the fuck wouldn't Otto want to do this, and why do you want to do it, Damon? To play your fucking games? That was the other thing. I'm intrigued by this.
His woman,
and this is what I was asking for last week, which is like, where is the perspective of the common person, right? The person who doesn't want this, and she and Shay from the first season really functioned this way.
I think it was like the third season, but I understood. Second?
Yes, she lasted to the fourth. I think she was gone through most of the third, but like she was there through most of the second. The end of the first into the second.
Honestly, everything up to like 5 or 6 kind of bleeds together for me, but it's fine. Shay from Game of Thrones, we all know it.
But yeah, she kind of fulfills that role. Like we had these scenes that kind of showed us the common people, and that's what I was asking for. And we have these characters that are seemingly solidifying and growing so I'm super intrigued. We had some dope dragon action. Like,
yep. We also got to see exactly how fucking massive Damon's dragon is in comparison to Rhaenyra's.
I thought they were fairly comparable. He just has a longer neck.
No, his dragon is remarkably larger.
I didn't think so.
I can pull up an image to double check, but I'm pretty sure.
I didn't look at it as like a distinctive advantage. Like distinctively, because Red Worm is like kind of weird. Like I can't imagine him having as effective of a fire blast, for instance, or like. Or him, like maybe he can maneuver and he's kind of agile because of his wormy like body, but he might not also have as much like power in his like thrust. Like I don't know, like think of it. He's got wings on his legs, like he can't have that like talon grab, right? Like think of like a bird kind of grabbing it. Like those things got to like hurt. Like I don't think he has that as much. So there's like give and take, I think. I also didn't see him as much large. I heard Syrax. Is it Syrax or Syraxes?
Caraxes is Damon's dragon. Syrax is a different dragon.
Syrax is hers, right?
I don't.
I think that's right.
You might be right.
Either way, I got the impression that Syrax might be smaller, but like they're comparable, and it's not a huge thing. It's like, yeah, he's a bigger dragon. Sure. But it's not like she also has a fucking large dragon. So I feel like it's more about how you willed it, right?
Could be.
So yeah, I thought this was a really solid episode. I'm really excited for what happens next, and I hope they don't blow it.
Yes.
Because they are awaiting our letter grades.
And
If you show up on this next one,
will.
You're not allowed to have an opinion. You're not allowed to give a letter grade.
Oh, okay.
I agree with Jeff. You're right.
It's
I'm wrong.
That's right. That's right, Troy. You're right that you're wrong.
Yes. For the record, D, you were also right. Cyrax is Rhaenyra's dragon, and it is described as huge and formidable, and it's supposed to be comparable to Caraxes. Although Caraxes, I believe, is supposed to be slightly larger, but they're supposed to be like similarly sized dragons.
So weird. It's like exactly.
Yeah, I know. Right. Ho, 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 ho. I'll give you this one. All right. That does it for this episode of House of the Dragon, edited in regular speed this time.
It?
Yes.
If this drops,
I put an alarm on my phone to remind me to
if
revert back to
drops,
normal speed before I
and
publish.
I sound like I'm talking in a Benny Hill skit.
Or you just inhaled a gallon of helium. No, I'll fix it. But thank you all for listening to this episode of the podcast. If you liked what you heard, please leave us a kind review on your favorite podcasting platforms. Give us 5 stars. Write us a nice little thing. You can email us at tbandjpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you think that we're not talking about you when we say you, we're talking about you.
You specifically, Jake.
Do one of those things. Or just contribute to the Patreon.
Yeah. There's also patreon.com/TBANDJ podcast and coffee.com/TBANDJ podcast.
I know it's a weekly thing or a monthly thing or there, but you can just cancel it after the one thing if you just want to give us $3 or something like that. That's cool. It's cool.
Yeah, that's an option.
Keeps the lights on, kid. Literally, it's the literal least you could do.
No. The least you could do is tell your friends.
Least.
And spread the word. Grow the podcast.
I'll take $3
$3
over a friend.
I'm glad we know where you stand on that.
Wow. Learning a lot about myself in this podcast.
Yeah.
Next week I'm ASMR. It's been fun, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
I demand you declare me president.